Call this meeting to order. It's the meeting of Orangeville Town Council for Monday, January 25th, 2021. Due to efforts to contain COVID-19, protect all individuals, public to attend council meetings until purpose. Members of the public who have an interest in a matter listed on the agenda may, up until 10 a.m. on the day of the scheduled council meeting, email councilagenda@orangeville.ca indicating your request to speak to a matter listed on the agenda. Phone number and conference ID will be provided to you so that you may join the virtual meeting and provide your comments to council. Members of the public wishing to raise a question during the public question period of the council meeting may begin at 8:30 p.m. on the evening of the council meeting by calling 1-289-801-5774 and entering conference ID 407-268-072 #. Correspondence and emails submitted will be considered as public information and entered into the public record. If you require access to information in an alternate format, please contact the Clerks Division by phone at 519-941-0440, extension 2256, or email at clerksdepartment@orangeville.ca. May I have a motion to approve our agenda tonight? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest?
No.
Seeing none, we will now move to the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, David Nairn. That was brought to you from the Taylor Amphitheatre near Port Severn, Ontario. Okay, let's move on to our land acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa of the Three Fires Confederacy. This meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Moving on to item 10, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of previous council meetings? Councillor Post, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? Thank you. That was the meetings of January 11th, 2020, January 18th, 2021. Our first presentation or delegation is Inspector Terry Ward of the OPP, our new detachment commander. Inspector Ward, are you with us? Mr. Donato, did you see Mr. Ward out there? Either?
Your worship, I don't see anybody on the line other than our second delegate.
Okay. Well, let's move along and hope Mr. Ward joins us. Our second presenter is Mr. Rob Coco, the president of Orangeville Hydro, and he's here to provide council and the public with the Orangeville Hydro business plan for 2021 to 2025 and the resolution. Mr. Coco.
Thank you, Worship. Cool. Can you hear and see me now?
Yes.
Hello, Council. Now, I am respectful of your time, so I do have a presentation prepared, but I'm not sure if you'd rather hear it or go straight to the question period.
No, I think we'd like to hear it. And if you've got anything to show us on screen, we'd be happy to see it.
I do.
Let's hope the hydro doesn't go out while you present.
I was thinking about that every time I come here. I think of that. And I'm in the office today because the internet's been intermittent at home, so it's best to hear with a reliable internet. So thank you, Your Worship, for allowing me to present, and thank you to all members of council and of course everyone in the town of Orangeville for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Rob Kokoch and I'm the president of Orangeville Hydro. I have the honor of presenting the 2021 to 2025 business plan this evening. As usual, I'd like to first mention why we're here discussing Orangeville Hydro's business plan. This process starts with our unanimous shareholders agreement. This agreement is a tri-party agreement between the town of Orangeville, the town of Grand Valley, and Orangeville Hydro Limited. The agreement establishes the principles of government relating to Orangeville Hydro. And section 7.1 of the agreement states that the business plan will be subject to majority shareholder approval. That's why we're here, to present the business plan with the goal of obtaining approval from the town of Orangeville in its capacity as a shareholder. I'd like to mention who we are and what Orangeville Hydro is. We are the local distribution company for the town of Orangeville and the town of Grand Valley. Our long-standing mission is to provide safe, reliable, efficient delivery of electrical energy while being accountable to our shareholders, the citizens of Orangeville and Grand Valley. Orangeville Hydro is licensed by the Ontario Energy Board to operate as an electricity distribution company within the current boundaries of the town of Orangeville and the former village of Grand Valley. We've had some successful service area amendments that have allowed Orangeville Hydro to grow our service area beyond our original limits. In addition to being an electrical distributor, Orangeville Hydro also provides water and wastewater billing services and streetlight maintenance services to the town of Grand Valley and the town of Orangeville. From a customer perspective, Orangeville Hydro has seven main customer classes. They're residential, general service less than 50, general service greater than 50, sentinel lights, street lights, unmetered scattered load, and generation. Orangeville Hydro has a steadily growing base of residential customers, with new subdivisions being energized in both Orangeville and Grand Valley. There is also redevelopment and intensification occurring within both communities. These intensification projects will continue to increase our customer density, which leads to more efficient use of our existing infrastructure. Orangeville Hydro also has a diverse commercial sector, as well as a large industrial customers in the plastics manufacturing sector and the food product manufacturing sector. Orangeville Hydro's corporate scorecard is tracked by the Ontario Energy Board on an annual basis. Our historical performance is shown on our publicly available annual scorecard. This scorecard tracks our performance in the categories of service quality, customer satisfaction, safety, service reliability, asset management, cost control, conservation and demand management, connection of renewable generation, and financial ratios. Within these categories, there are 23 specific measures on the scorecard. So I won't have time to go through all of these tonight, but the scorecard does show that Orangeville Hydro is meeting or exceeding all the industry targets, as well as our distributor-specific targets, and our historical results are trending in the appropriate direction. It is our plan, and shown within the business plan, to maintain this performance and for the years to come. I'd like to speak to Orangeville Hydro's rates that our customers pay. Orangeville Hydro's mission, again, and strategic objectives both speak to providing a cost-efficient service to our customers. So to gauge how we are performing, we compare ourselves to our peers. Luckily, the Ontario Energy Board compiles a publicly available annual yearbook, which contains various financial and non-financial statistics of all the electric utilities in the province. So this yearbook allows us to compare ourselves to the other 58 LDCs in Ontario. According to the yearbook data, Orangeville Hydro currently sits as the 12th most cost-effective LDC. And so in this chart that we're showing here, the orange line is Orangeville Hydro's distribution revenue per customer, average through the year. And the black line is all the other LDCs. And as it's showing, our distribution revenue is consistently lower per customer, showing that we are meeting our mission as a cost-effective LDC. Looking forward now, instead of looking at the back stats, Table 9 on page 22 of the business plan shows the proposed rates and expected revenues for all our customers in 2021. That's the column on the far right. Specifically, this table includes the distribution revenues that we receive from the fixed service charge and distribution volumetric charge on our customers' monthly invoices. Looking at the top right of the table, you'll see that since 2019, our distribution revenue from a residential customer has been a fixed flat rate charge. This brings stability to residential bills. So heat waves and cold polar vortexes don't significantly increase the distribution line on customers' bills. And it also brings stability to Orangeville Hydro's revenue. Down in the right-hand corner of this table, the 2021 distribution revenue is forecasted from all our customers, and it's forecasted to be $5.85 million. These distribution revenues fund our capital expenditures, our operating, maintenance, and administrative expenses, dividend payments, and our debt payments. When it comes to capital expenditures are required to ensure the distribution system operates safely and reliably. They are also required to expand our system to connect new customers. Looking forward, we project our capital expenditures to be $2.05 million in 2021, and looking out for the next 4 years, it ranges from $1.7 million to $1.8 million. Looking across the 2014 to 25 timeline, you can see the system access projects, which are the bottom in kind of red, and there also are new customer connections, can have significant swings from year to year, depending on subdivision connections, which we have no control over. But luckily, there has been growth in both service areas throughout this timeline. System renewal expenditures are due to the replacement of major assets such as poles, transformers, switches, switching cubicles, and revenue meters that have reached their end of life. System service expenditures are significantly driven by Orangeville Hydro's voltage conversion program that will continue throughout the duration of this 5-year forecast and beyond. General plant expenditures consist of non-distribution assets such as vehicles, tools, IT equipment, and building alterations. Table 13 on page 31 of the business plan shows our operating, maintenance, and administrative expenses. That's what OM&A stands for. And this chart shows them by year and by type. Our operating, maintenance, and administrative expenditure forecast is $3.5 million in 2021. The following 4 years have been forecasted to increase to account for inflationary increases of expenses, as well as additional costs due to an increasing number of customers to serve. The forecast does include an increase in most of the operating costs using an inflationary rate of 2% per year, other than the union compensation, which is based on our existing collective agreement, which goes to 2023. The headcount remains at a steady level of 19 employees going forward into the 5-year horizon after 2020. We do compare our historical operating, maintenance, and administrative costs to the provincial average. Our OM&A costs per customer are consistently lower than the provincial average, and our 2020 values are forecasted to be slightly below our 2014 values. And so that's while our customer count has gone up, that is something we do want to keep an eye on. Is this chart here is ensuring that we're not getting more expensive per customer. It's obviously we're unable to continue the downward trend because the growth isn't what it was in 2016, 17, and 18 to increase the denominator. But this is showing that we are still remaining an efficient utility relative to our peers. Orangeville Hydro operates its business with a lean amount of employees. We rank 9 in the province with 714 customers per employee. The provincial average is lower at 542 customers per employee. Orangeville Hydro currently employs 19 full-time employees, and as I mentioned previously, this number of employees is expected to remain consistent throughout 2025, other than unforeseen circumstances that may change our business activities. Now, this is the last slide I'll be speaking to this evening. This is our financial forecast summary. Energy sales, which is up at the top line, are the pass-through commodity costs, mainly to the IESO and Hydro One, and our budgeted increase 2 to 4% year over year based on 2019 electricity sales. Distribution revenue, the second line, is Orangeville, as mentioned, is Orangeville Hydro's revenue to fund our operating, maintenance, and administrative expenses, our capital projects, and our debt financing obligations. The distribution revenue is forecasted to grow in 2021 based on the forecasted customer growth from new connections, our annual inflationary rate increase based on our existing rate application that's in front of the Ontario Energy Board right now, as well as the recovery of revenue that Orangeville Hydro deferred during the initial months of the pandemic to keep our bills stable and lower for our customers at the beginning of the pandemic. Beyond 2021, an average increase of 1.5% is used to account for future customer growth and future rate applications. In regards to debt, more in the middle of this table. In 2021, Orangeville Hydro plans to borrow $1 million to sustain our capital projects and fund our regulatory related payments, such as the increasing Hydro One low voltage charges and fluctuating global adjustment rates. Both the Hydro One low voltage charges and global adjustment rates can have a significant impact on Orangeville Hydro's cash balance, as there is a lag between the moment when Orangeville Hydro pays the IESO and Hydro One for these costs and when we actually get that differential approved in the rate application to recoup those pass-through costs from our customers. The 2021 loan will take the debt equity ratio to 52 to 48, which is a small deviation from the OEB deemed rate structure of 60-40. A $2 million loan was previously budgeted in 2020. We spoke of that at the last when I was here a year ago. So during the pandemic, as many companies did, Orangeville Hydro deferred some expenses due to COVID into 2021, and we had a corporate-wide attempt to reduce expenses, including financing costs. So the 2021 forecasted loan was actually taken as $1 million in 2020 and $1 million in 2021. So we have taken the $1 million loan in 2020, and instead of a $2 million loan in 2020, if needed, we do forecast, but we don't have the exact time when we will likely take a $1 million loan as well in 2021. In regards to dividends, since incorporation, Orangeville Hydro has provided $20.7 million to our shareholders through regular dividends and special dividends. That being over $20.2 million to the town of Orangeville and over $450,000 to the town of Grand Valley. The business plan forecasts another $2.6 million in shareholder dividends over the next 5 years. So that kind of brings us to the end of what I'd like to talk about on this table. So in conclusion, Orangeville Hydro plans to continue to meet our mission statement of providing reliable and safe and efficient electricity to our customers while being accountable to our shareholders. We also plan to continuously improve on our positive performance shown within the OEB scorecard and yearbook. So that ends the slideshow. Thank you for the opportunity, Your Worship. We really appreciate coming here every year for this business plan presentation, and this does conclude my comments.
Very good, Mr. Coker. Thank you very much. Looking at the scorecard, customer service levels extremely high, safety record perfect over the last 5 years, interruption rates trending down, which is very good and at a very low level. Rates are substantially lower than the provincial average. So I don't think we could ask for anything better from you, but every year you seem to keep getting a little bit better anyway. So thank you, Mr. Coco, and the great staff for Orangeville Hydro. We have a question from Mr. Andrew, and then Mr. Andrew.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Mr. Coco. It's nice to have your presentation. Opportunity to echo the Mayor's comments. Great ROI as the primary investor. Great to see the metrics as well, performing as well as they are. A couple of questions for you based on your business plan, your report to us. You mentioned about, of course, your staff complement of 19 and the FTE, and great. I guess way of looking at it is supporting our community efficiently. And I take a look at a comment that was highlighted in your report about investing in your staff. Can you give me an example of how you have invested in your staff in 2020 and how you plan on doing that for 2021? And I have one more question after that.
Absolutely. So one of the ways we invest through our staff, well, I'll mention two. I'll go with two of them to keep it succinct. So one of the first one I'll mention is, of course, training. So within our memberships that we're part of, so through the Electrical Distributors Association and another arm of the EDA called MIRI, we're able to have a significant amount of access to professional development courses relative to this industry, as well as another group we're part of, Utilities Standards Forum, which has training courses that weren't available without that group, sort of technical related courses that are otherwise need to be learned on the job. But as for a small utility, it's tough to learn those skills because sometimes those things don't come up every day or every year like a larger utility. So our associations have training courses, and we have a sort of a working practice of go. And if you don't go, we'll just keep saying go, and we'll make sure that we do invest our staff through training. The other way is through networking. So not only during the training courses, we want to make sure our employees here and everyone on the team, including board members, go to whether it is conferences, especially the virtual conferences now that have a very, very low cost point, and participate in the working groups and committees that exist, whether it be at the IESO, the EDA, like I mentioned, the Utility Standards Forum. We're part of another association of LDCs called the Czech Group. We want to make sure that our everybody on the Orangeville Hydro team is participating in those working groups and committees, because that's when you'll really be able to network with others and gain experience.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And my second question, very quickly, off the top of your head, I didn't see it in the report, but how many micro-embedded generation facilities would we have? And again, we're talking about solar power setups that people may have at their household or within some of the businesses in our community.
Yeah, so it's 42.
Okay.
Yeah, 42, and I guess there'll be one of those will be the small wind turbine at the educational building at Island Lake Public School, and then the rest are rooftop solar, and one ground mount in there.
Okay, and your encouragement for that is, of course, through education, I would hope?
Yeah, so right now, as part of our business plan, we do a promoting renewable generation. And so we are now through our social media, our Twitter account, we are ensuring we have renewable generating tweets, as well as, of course, the net metering program. We really do want to make sure our customers, industrial, commercial, residential, are all aware of the net metering program, where you can install solar on your rooftop, and then you'll use the electricity generated by your rooftop solar for your house and not take it from the grid. But if you require the grid because it's a cloudy day or nighttime like now, the grid will be there to provide it for you. And then if you're on a sunny summer day, if you're generating more than you consume, we'll have a bi-directional meter on, and we'll measure the electricity going back under our grid. So you're kind of using our grid like a battery, and then you'll get it back, and you'll reduce your next, maybe your winter bills, because we'll accumulate the credits that you feed back to us, and you can go to a next bill.
Great. Thank you very much for your answers there, Mr. Coco. Great to see you too as well. Thank you.
Councillor Andrews. Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Coco, again, very nice to see you. Thank you for coming to council again. And if it was a year, I'm pretty sure I was in my house at home last time you presented, so it's kind of a sad story if we're doing this almost a year via video conference. A couple of questions. One, just a comment and a thank you. When hydro does go out in town, which does not happen often, and I made that off the cuff comment at the beginning of the thing, trying to be funny, and I apologize for that. I have no issues with the service, and if anything, I wanted to applaud you and your team, and in particular yourself, for the communication style that you do have when we have emergencies. It's greatly appreciated, A, from someone who's trying to communicate with others, and B, from those that are in their homes wondering when the power is going to go back on. So it's just a wonderful service you provide, and I'm grateful for it. And I think back to, I'm not on this board, and I don't have the background that is discussed in these meetings to fully understand, but you mentioned, and I think you said 60% on the debt to equity. And when I do the math here and divide the debt equity in, it looks like you're sitting around kind of a 1.1. You sort of dip to a 1 ratio at one point. And as an individual who hates debt, I always look at your reports, and I'm so thrilled with the dividend, and I'm thrilled with the revenue. And I look at the debt, and it just seems so questionably high, but yet it feels like we're doing everything that we should based on what hydro calls for. And I'm just wondering if you can just one more time try and educate me on why that is. I just don't understand it, and it does look alarming, but then I hear the calm in your voice and I see the consistent history, and my sense is I shouldn't be bothered with this, but I thought I'd ask anyway.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for the question, Councillor Taylor. Happy to speak about it. So with our debt, for the 60-40, when we mentioned that sort of 60-40 split of debt to equity, so that'll give, like you mentioned, the 1.1. So the OEB, where the Ontario Energy Board would like LDCs to stay below, would be the 1.5. And so we could still approach the 1.5 mark. And as far as our license would be concerned, it's still good. And we have been there before, and each year it will be altered whether we take a loan or not. So one of the main reasons that we are taking loans is that lag between what we pay the IESO and what we pay Hydro One. And we do collect, those are what we call pass-through costs, similar to the town of Orangeville with the county and the education. A citizen of Orangeville will pay their taxes to the town of Orangeville, and the town of Orangeville will then have to pass on the Dufferin County and pass on the educational to the province. So we have that, but unfortunately there's a lag. So Hydro One will get a rate increase and pass that on to Orangeville Hydro, but we can't actually up our rates immediately. So what we do is we collect what our rates were approved a few years ago, which is lower, and collect that every month from our customers. But meanwhile, we're paying Hydro One more. So that creates a differential. And when we show you our audited financial statements, within the cash flow, statement of cash flows, you'll see in brackets, unfortunately, that's the negative. It's been $1.2 million going the wrong way of us paying the ISO and paying Hydro One. And we put that into a variance account that we will collect at future rate applications. But that's just been growing and growing until we reset that rate with Hydro One. Sorry, what we call the low voltage charges. When we reset that rate to what it should be at our next cost of service rate applications. And we haven't done a cost of service rate application since filing in 2013 for 2014 rates. And so the cost of service application is the big one. It's our big rate application. It's very expensive and time consuming. And so you really want to make sure that if you're going in for a cost of service rate application, that it's needed. Whether you're over, your revenue's too high and you need to reduce your revenue, or you have a lot of capital infrastructure to build, or something's changed in your distribution system or with your customer base, and now you actually need to go for a larger than inflationary rate increase. And so that's one of them. And so in our audited financial statements, if you look back on the statement of cash flows, there'll be that regulatory variance line, and it climbs. And so we need to temporarily fund that. And then, of course, for the capital expenditures, when you see this wonderful growth in Grand Valley and growth in the town of Orangeville with the subdivisions and condo buildings and townhouse developments going on, Orangeville Hydro does contribute to the development. It's not sort of a clean slate, like the balance is zero for our work that we put in. What we do is we do an economic evaluation with the developer to find out how much revenue will we make in the next 25 years, and what are our expenses over that 25 years, and what will be our cost to connect that developer. We run it through an economic evaluation to do a bit of a cost benefit analysis. And for these really dense urban developments, it ends up that we and also because the developer is normally the one putting in all the infrastructure that Orangeville Hydro assumes once the development is done, which increases our asset base. So all of this goes into the economic evaluation, and more times than not, we're paying the developer a transfer price when we take ownership. And so when there's a lot of development, that's some outgoing costs that weren't really foreseen in 2013.
But it's, Your Worship, if I may?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's positive though, because you're actually investing in what is deemed as an asset, but you have to take on the debt to be able to do that. Yes. And so net, we should be like, would you then look at your top line, which is your energy sales, and divide that into your total debt, and your total debt is remaining relatively flat, but your top line is growing. So as a percentage of your overall, you're in better shape. Is that kind of the gist of it? Yeah, the distribution revenue line is the line that you that's the money that that's our revenue that we keep. The electricity sales is those pass through. Yeah. Thank you very much for that's a very detailed response, and I actually followed along, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Let me check here, make sure nobody else is on board. Okay, very good. So, Rob, really thank you for that presentation, and all good news. So that's great. All the best. Have a good night, Rob. Thank you. Mr. Bonato, is Mr. Ward on board yet?
We do have the other three delegates on now. They're all on mute, but we do have them on the line.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before you move on, do you want to just pass the recommendation for the hydro shareholders?
Yes. So, councillors, before we move on, we have a recommendation here that Orangeville Hydro Limited Business Plan 2021 to 2025 be received, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the shareholders resolution approving the Orangeville Hydro Limited Business Plan for 2021-2025. May I have a motion for that, please? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. All in favor?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ward, if you can hear us, can you press *6 and connect? There he is.
There I am.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. That
Welcome
was
to Orangeville Dufferin County, and welcome to your first Orangeville Town Council meeting. Thank you for joining us.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, for inviting me.
So I'm just wondering if you'd like to share with us some of your thoughts of your first few days here on board.
Well, yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, as you know. The biggest thing is we're trying to make sure that all the Orangeville officers kind of get the OPP way of things. They're all experienced police officers, but now they got to learn the OPP way of doing things. So, you know, it's now they're part of the Ontario government, so it's a bit of a change for them. But from what we've seen, we've got a great team there. Everything's going really well. As I can say, is, you know, one of my big things is visibility, and that's one of the things that I'm going to push forward. And I think we've already been doing it. I mean, I've only been there a couple weeks, but I've really been pushing the visibility, and you're going to see Orangeville become a bit of a magnet for the police, because where before the Dufferin officers would stay out, now they're going to come in. So you're going to get that extra visibility in the downtown core. So, you know, for me, we've got the Shelburne amalgamation on the go as well. But as far as with the Orangeville thing, I feel that right now I'm just learning who the people are, who the players are, and overall, it's been a good experience so far. And I'm looking forward to bringing more to it.
Excellent, excellent. Councillors, does anybody have a question for Mr. Ward tonight? Short comment. Councillor Andrews, go ahead.
Oh, no, Deputy Mayor had his hand up before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are they using the queue?
That's okay. I'm getting used to it. Thank you. I just like to compliment Mr. Ward and the OPP. I have been very impressed over the last few months on the visibility. It is working. I recall seeing 5 cruises. I don't know if they were the same one, but I've seen them all within about 10 minutes. So visibility is a great idea, and it's working. So I just wanted to thank you and welcome you to town.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. Councillor Andrews, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship. Inspector Ward, welcome to our community, and I know our community welcomes you as well. I'm very impressed by, as the Deputy Mayor has indicated, the presence of the OPP in our community to date. Wearing another hat in the post-secondary side, I know that many of our soon-to-be graduates from Police Foundations program at the Orangeville campus may be looking to you for some advice at some point, and we'll certainly connect offline regarding that particular request at some point. But again, welcome to our community.
Thank you very much, and absolutely reach out anytime. It's been almost 26 years since I went through the recruiting process, but I definitely have some connections that I can help out with that.
Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you, Inspector Ward. I too want to personally welcome you to Orangeville. I think you've made a great choice by joining us, and by the sounds of your qualifications, we're lucky to have you on board. I just wanted to also relay to you that I too have been getting some great feedback from the community. Not heard one negative thing so far, so good. And just want to let you know that it sounds like you've got a good team behind you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. And I mean, any of the comments, positive or negative, I mean, I need to hear them. So that way we can, if it's a good thing, we keep it going. If it's something not so good, then we can look at how we can do better. And I mean, that's our focus. The OPP's focus is public safety, and we want to be effective and efficient, right? And that's what we will do.
Very good. Very good. I know we've got some documents coming forward in the next little while. A local area plan that your predecessor has put together, which is going through an approval process now. We also have our community wellness plan, which the county's working on, which I know you will be involved in that as we look to ensure that our community is safe in all aspects. So looking forward to seeing those documents in the coming months. Mr. Brennan, do you have anything to say, sir?
Your Worship, through you. No, I met with Mr. Ward last week, but here at Council, I would like to also welcome him. I know he's going to bring great things to our community with regards to policing. I look forward to working with him and wishing him and all of his staff the very best.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. And Your Worship, just one of the things I'll put on the table too is we're kind of excited. Some of the senior officers, even in Orangeville, coming in June, there's going to be 8 recruits coming to the town of Orangeville. And I think that's something that Orangeville hasn't seen in a long time is a recruit. And now you're going to get 8 of them. So it's going to be positive in one way, but might be negative in another with they like to go out and start writing tickets. So.
Okay. Well, I think it's exciting times for policing in Dufferin County with Shelburne about to join the OPP. There's got to be some synergy there with the entire area now under your command, and I think all of Dufferin County is looking forward to receiving the important care and control that OPP is going to be offering here in our area. So again, thank you very much. I know we'll be seeing you again. Councillor Taylor, I'm sure is looking forward to Mr. Ward and the conversations at the Police Service Board. Mr. Taylor, do you have anything to say, sir?
I do. Thank you, Your Worship. I had the privilege of spending time with Mr. Ward and his staff sergeants at the station over the last little while, and spent a little bit of time getting to know each other and kind of what we wanted to accomplish together. So I think more on that as we move forward. But I think back to our conversation, which I very much enjoyed, and thank you again for your time. But one of the things, I guess, now that we're in a public forum and council is here and some residents are watching, one of the issues that's become very clear to me is that when there's issues within our town, residents are contacting council, or residents are going on Facebook and making references to issues that are happening. And the reality is, unless there's a police report filed, it's very, very difficult for our force to do anything about it. So I don't know, Inspector Detachment Commander Ward, if you'd like to speak to that. But for me, it's I guess it's just a plea to our citizens to ensure that they are going through proper channels. You can certainly let council know. I'm happy to hear from people, but the reality is nothing really happens until it's in their hands in the form of a file. So I'd encourage everybody to do that.
Yes, Councilor Taylor, you basically answered the question for me. I mean, maybe in the past with municipal policing, they thought they got better service when they went through a councillor or an elected member. But I mean, with the OPP, their best avenue is to either report it online, right? There's online reporting through opp.ca, or there's the 1-800 number, 1-800 or 1-888-310-1122, which put you directly in touch with our communications center, or if it's an emergency, 911. And those are the 3 options that the public have to report to the police. And by all means, I mean, we encourage them to use those means to report directly to us, and not go around the issue or look for some type of preference or try to be anonymous, right? If you want to be anonymous, use Crime Stoppers. Yeah, you're exactly right that they need to come directly to us to report their incident.
Very good. So, Mr. Ward, if before we sign off with you, I'm wondering, could you just give us a quick synopsis of your of your police time, from the time that you were hired, and just a little background on yourself, if you wouldn't mind, for the counselors and for folks watching at home.
Sure. I started with the OPP in 1995. I was posted to Huron County, Goderich. I spent 11 years there. The first 5 as a general roads, general law enforcement on the road. 5 years on, I went to the emergency response team, which is a specialized unit within the OPP that does containment, canine, search and rescue, public order. So I spent 6 years there. From there, I went into our VIP security unit, where I spent a year with His Honor Lieutenant Governor Bartleman and his security detail. Coming out of there, I was promoted to a sergeant. I ended up going to Northern Ontario, Horn-Payne, White River area. Spent 3 years there. From there, I transferred back to Grey County as a sergeant, which is home for me, and spent the next quite a few years doing different assignments within Grey County as a sergeant. In 2017, I got promoted to staff sergeant in Collingwood. Spent some time there. Transferred back to Grey County as a staff sergeant. Within a year, I was acting inspector in Huronia West. And subsequently then, January 11th, 2021, I commenced my duties as Inspector Detachment Commander in Dufferin County.
Very good. Well, that's quite a varied career. So we're lucky to have you here, sir. So thank you so much. Any other final comments, councillors, before we let Mr. Ward get back to Paul? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Post.
Thank you very much. I will jump on the welcome bandwagon and just welcome you to our community. But beyond that, I just wanted to make one comment, which is, as one of the members of the library board, I've been so pleased to see a cruiser parked downtown pretty much every day. And I know that when the library opens up again, we've really appreciated the walkthroughs that have been happening in the past few years. The library becomes a bit of a respite place for those who need to get out of the cold. And as such, some incidents can happen in there. So it's been really great to have a police presence through there, and seeing that there's somebody walking the downtown beat again, and still we're really looking forward to that at the library as well. So it's been really great to see that's already started with the cruiser park downtown, and I know the downtown merchants will be appreciative of that as well, and when the library opens, we will be as well. So again, welcome to the community, and thanks for everything you do.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Mr. Warder. We're all looking forward to getting out of COVID, hopefully in the coming months. And Orangeville loves its community events, and I'm sure we're going to see you out at many of those in the not too distant future. So we're looking forward to seeing you in person, and all the best with getting you climatized here in Dufferin County and Orangeville. Thank you for joining us. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to our next delegate. This is 11.3, Mr. Alan Luker. Mr. Luker, are you on board with us tonight? If you're on the phone, *6, please. Mr. Luker. Oh, there he is. You need to unmute, sir. No, you're muted now. We can't hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, I can't. I can't hear you. You're muted, I see. Can you unmute yourself? You're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. I think either the wrong microphone is selected or the microphone isn't working on his device by the looks of it, because he is unmuted, but nothing's coming through.
Right. So we got an issue. Mr. Luker.
Can you phone in?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Dan, can he call in and do you put him on the line?
He could do a combination of, because the video is working, so he could use the phone for that piece.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to call in, Mr. Luker?
I think he's looking for the number. Can we tell him that?
So Mr. Luker, he does have access to the chat, so I will paste it into the chat.
Okay, so he'll put the phone number, Mr. Luker, in the chat.
Could we have the deputy mayor hum a song or something while we wait? Jeopardy, perhaps? Your worship, would it make sense to move on to 11.4?
Yeah, just thinking about that. Well, we'll give Mr. Luker 30 seconds here, see if he can connect. There's a conference ID number, Mr. Luker, you've got to enter in there. Okay, let's move on to 11.4.
Your worship, I think we just got him in here. He's just admitting now. So just 10 more seconds here. And
I can hear somebody.
There we go. Okay, we can hear you now, Mr. Luker.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead, sir?
Yeah, sorry about all this, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening to my proposal. Am I right in assuming that you can access the files?
Well, we don't have any files, sir.
Oh, you don't have any file, because I thought. Anyways, I uploaded the pictures of what my idea was on the files. Okay, so anyways, that can be done later. But I saw various tributes to first responders and essential workers around the world, nurses and stuff like that had been done in the last year. And I phoned town about 3 weeks ago and didn't get a response. Then I talked to the paper, and the paper said that I should put forth a proposal to you guys and ask if I could meet with you on January 25th. So that's what I'm doing. I did put together a bunch of pictures, but I guess you can't access them. So I will talk to somebody about what is. But I'll tell you over the phone what I'm thinking, and that is that maybe a tribute to frontline workers over the entrance, the overhang going into Alder Street Arena, something along the lines, we salute frontline workers. Pictures will show what I have in mind, and then maybe some of those statues that we see around town as well, sort of like recognizing the efforts of frontline workers and frontline first responders and frontline workers.
Very good. Well, it's certainly an interesting proposition. We all love our frontline workers, both from healthcare and even in our grocery stores. You know, the young people that are serving us, and we really appreciate all the work they're doing. I see Councillor Sherwood with her hand up. Councillor Sherwood, go right ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Luker. I just wanted to make you aware that Heritage Orangeville puts out an annual calendar, and this year our theme was Heroes and Heritage. And I don't know if you have a copy of that calendar, but I would gladly distribute one to you if you want to email me your address. And in each month, not only did we show a heritage home within Orangeville, but we had photographs of different people, whether it be, there it is right there. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So can you flip up one of the pages just to show them an example how one of them, we had doctors and nurses, we had municipal employees, we had ambulance people. So every month we had a heritage home, and in the corner we had a tribute to our heroes. And just to add to that, the third week of February is Heritage Week. And we're also taking out a full page ad and continuing with our theme of heroes and heritage. And we will be acknowledging many more of our heroes from the past and the present. Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor, for showing that. Mr. Luker, that is a way of us paying tribute to those people. And like I say, I would gladly give you a copy if you like, or if anybody would like a copy, all you have to do is email heritage@orangeville.ca, and I'll personally make sure you get a copy.
Very good. Okay. Well, Mr. Luker, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and I would suggest that we will consider this moving forward. I guess you were suggesting renaming the arena altogether, or are you just talking about a tribute maybe at the front entrance?
Yeah, my original one, and I'll send all of you the Photoshop that I had done. My original thing was renaming the arena, but after thinking about it for a while, I think that I went and took some shots of the big sign there, and that's going to be a little bit cumbersome, and it's going to take some time to replace that. But if we put over the overhang, that wouldn't take any time, and it'll be cheaper. The big thing is that it will be something that is permanent over a long time, because unfortunately, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think this is going to be the first time we're going to have to deal with something like this. I mean, This is, I think, going to happen again, and that tribute for those people, especially the essential workers, because first responders, I mean, we have TV shows and movies and everything else, and I don't want to take any recognition away from them whatsoever, because they deserve absolutely everything. But the essential workers are the ones that, sometimes get forgotten and tend to be the people that get yelled at. And I mean, you're not going to yell at Mr. Ward, the cop that was here before, but many people will yell at a grocery clerk, right? And they'll see that that's an opportunity. And this would be sort of like a permanent thing into the future to show these, and these are all frontline heroes, right? That we sort of like acknowledge and recognize their efforts and courage.
Very good. Councillor Pulse, I know there's been some art murals put up at the walking track, for instance, and I'm just wondering if there might be some sort of an art competition to, create some new artwork to honor essential workers, and maybe we could put that in the budget and apply it somewhere at some of our municipal buildings or at the arena.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was thinking the same thing with along the walking track. We do have the mural program started. And one of the things that we can do is do a designated ask of what we're looking for. So when we started the initial proposals where we were doing our call for artists, we had it that we just were generally looking for ideas about Orangeville to put on there, but we could always do a call for one of the murals to be specifically themed. We've done that in the past with some of our utility boxes, and I think that's a great idea, and one that I can talk to Ruth Phillips about over the next couple of weeks for when we do put out our next call for artists for the mural program. So I think that's a great idea.
Very good. Councillor Peters, you had your hand up, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. You actually beat me to it. I was going to ask Councillor Post about the arts and culture program, so next time.
We're all thinking the same way. Great. Okay, Mr. Luker, we've got some good ideas. Thank you for spurring us on, and you'll hear from us in the coming months. Okay.
Thank you very much for listening to me, and if you'll indulge me, then I'll send you the pictures that I had to all of you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Yeah. Okay. moving on, we have 11.4, Mr. Nereus, or I'm sorry, is it a matter of one? I'm sorry, Nereus, are you on board?
I am here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mr. Mystery, thank you. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me.
Screen, sir, but
oh, that's
very good. Oh. Thank you.
Thanks for having me this evening. I appreciate the time. I'm a resident or former resident of the Settlers Creek area, and I've been there for 13 years. We just moved over to Young Court, so west side Orangeville all the way. Go west side. We've had some safety issues and concerns regarding the Settlers Creek location, specifically since the Spencer Avenue Road opened up through the bypass. And when the road first opened, we had quite a few accidents happen at the intersection of Spencer and Riddell. I'm not abreast of the number of accidents we had, but quite a few at that time when the intersection was first opened. And as citizens or residents of that area, the community feels that the intersection is quite dangerous for the residents, especially those that like to walk over to the plaza or move through through those areas there. We put a proposal together, I believe a proposal, or at least a recommendation to have that intersection monitored and perhaps even have some left turn lanes put in, not only at Spencer, but also at Alder, turning into the Settlers Creek residential neighborhood. It appears that people try and beat the light either through the yellow coming southbound on Riddell or turning left into the residential area. And the local residents feel that it's time that the intersection had another evaluation done and perhaps determine a better safety method for there. The other aspect is the speed of the cars that go down Alder and go down Spencer Avenue. Heading westbound on Alder and westbound on Spencer is almost acted as a thoroughfare between Beeline and Riddell. And even though the signs have been posted at 40, you'll be hard pressed to find many that drive at the 40 rate. A big concern, obviously, is the school at the end of Spencer Avenue and Beeline. That area, too, tends to pick up speed when people come through, especially off of Beeline heading towards Riddell. Would love for the safety concerns of the residents to be heard by council, and would love for something to be at least looked at and done before it becomes a situation where it had to be looked at.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mystery, we are looking at these issues tonight. We've hired a consultant. There's a 161-page report before council tonight, and with some recommendations. As far as the speed on Alder and Riddell, we have a new sheriff in town. We have seen an uptick in traffic enforcement, and I know that both Alder and Spencer need to have some additional attention paid to them. So I think Chair Taylor of the PSB is on board tonight. I think in one of our next meetings we can have a discussion about traffic enforcement and hopefully have the OPP pay a little bit more attention to that area now and other hotspot areas that might be brought to police service board. So, Mr. Mystery, thank you for your presentation. We are going to kick around the idea of the safety of those intersections at Riddell and Alder and Riddell and Spencer tonight, and hopefully come up with some additional ways to improve those intersections. So, all right, thank you. Any further discussion?
Thank you. Just as a side note, I also have a concern about Beeline itself, the speed at which the vehicles travel on Beeline. And as a resident of Young Court now, my kids walk up and down Beeline on the sidewalk, which basically is just part of the road. There's no buffer between the sidewalk and the street. And when they're heading northbound, that's the direction the cars are going in. It's the only sidewalk we have. And when the cars are behind you, traveling at the speed that they are, it's a little scary, even for an adult like myself walking up there. And I have seen, unfortunately, dogs dart out off their leash, a squirrel or a raccoon, well, not a raccoon, but a fox heads across, and the dogs do dart out with their leashes. Fortunately, nothing has happened, but I'd hate for something to happen, especially because the sidewalk is that close to Beeline.
Yeah, there was some concerns last summer with respect to speed on Beeline. It was reported to our detachment commander, and she did institute some additional traffic enforcement on Beeline successfully. And we know that it's a bit of a bypass now for trucks that are speeding by there, and the speed is an issue. So again, we will take your concerns to the Police Services Board, who will then also make Mr. Ward aware of your concerns there. Beeline, if I'm not mistaken, is a county road, and if you wish to bring this to county council's attention as well, it might not be a bad idea. But as far as the sidewalks are concerned, I think that's going to be a long time probably before that road gets sidewalks on it. So I just caution you to be careful.
Actually, I got a very lengthy
traffic out with it. That will be my only recommendation to you, because you can see the traffic coming at you when you're walking towards it. So anyway, thanks again for coming to speak with us tonight. All the best.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Taylor, go ahead, and Mr. Andrews.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. I did want to thank Mr. Mystery for speaking, and just a couple of clarifications for him, if I could. And I think you did this, Your Worship, but I just wanted to reiterate. Tonight we're talking about two intersections, and with what Mr. Jones has done is there is another report coming on the second part of what's happening on Spencer and Alder at a later date. So that's not to be discussed today, but it is forthcoming at a later time. And then I wanted to speak to just his comments quickly as my role as chair of the Police Services Board, and you eloquently described the same thing, Your Worship. But it's funny, I hear about 3 streets right now on a very consistent basis, and they are in no particular order. Cedar, which is so shocking to me because it's such a tiny street, but there is a problem there on Cedar for speed. I've always heard it about Spencer. I've always heard it about Alder and Beeline as well. And I can tell any citizen that's watching tonight, and for council's information, the OPP have been very receptive to all 4 areas. They are aware of them. And I like what the mayor is saying tonight. We'll make sure that that's on a Police Services Board meeting and have that as a discussion topic. But they've been very good about those 4 streets, and the level of exposure for the police patrolling there has been increased. So anyway, so a couple little tidbits. Thank you.
We've heard some very good news from Inspector Ward that there's going to be another 8 or 9 recruits coming to Orangeville in June, which means they're going to be able to get some regular rotation of traffic enforcement throughout town on a regular basis, and that's going to be very welcome. Mr. Andrews, you want to...
Yeah, very quickly, thank you, Your Worship, and again, Councillor Taylor, thank you for addressing the issue as well, as we all are on council, but Mr. Mystery also reached out, and I want to thank Mr. Jones for his response with kindness, but also with some detail, and as the mayor echoed, with the I guess Beeline, which falls under the jurisdiction of the county. He's provided some, I think, important guidance for Mr. Mystery in that particular case, but I know that we'll be talking about the intersections that are part of a report a little bit later in the agenda.
Very good. Okay. That ends our presentations, petitions, and delegations for tonight. We're going to move on to staff reports. First staff report is 12.1. This is regarding the assumption of the Cache Development Subdivision by the town of Orangeville, and it's a recommendation that report INS 2021-007, assumption of Cache Development Subdivision Registry Plan 7M-70 be received. May I have a motion to receive this report? And approve. Sorry. To receive and approve this and the assumption of the subdivision. Councillor Sherwood, seconded by Councillor Andrew. Any discussion on this, councillors? All in favor? Thank
Yes.
you. 12.2, this is regarding taxi cab and limousine driver's license extension and recommendation. That report CPS 2021-006 taxi cab and driver's license extension be received, and that the expiry date for taxi cab and limousine driver's licenses issued in 2020 be extended from January 31st, 2021 to April 30th, 2021, and that the council amend bylaw 2004-119 to change the expiry date for taxi cab and limousine driver's licenses going forward. And, Madam Clerk, this is primarily due to COVID issues. So, councillors, is there any discussion on this matter? May I have a motion to approve this, please? Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Post. All in favor?
Yes.
Moving on to 12.3, this is the Elbrook Center Transit Transfer Station feasibility update, INS 2020-008, and it's a recommendation that report INS 2021-008, the Elbrook Center Transit Transfer Station feasibility study be received, and the council directs staff to proceed in accordance with option 1, receive the report. Option 2, the council approves the location of the transit transfer point on a transitway connecting Center Street and Dawson Road at the Elbrook Center, and direct staff to work with county staff to develop an acceptable design. Or option 3, council direct staff to report back to council with alternative options for a transfer point. Do we have any motions on this? Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship, I would like to put forward a motion that council directs that staff to proceed in accordance with option number 2.
We have a seconder on that? Councillor Andrew. Do we have any conversation or comment on this, councillors? Anybody wish? Councillor Sherwood and then Councillor Taylor.
Yes, Your Worship, can I get one clarification from staff? Within the contents of the report, it refers back to the county staff plan to seek committee and council approval. Is that committee a county council committee or our original transit task force committee? Mr. Jones?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Sherwood, that would be a committee of council of the county.
So they would go to committee first and then council?
Correct. That's consistent with their process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you for that.
Okay, in order here we have Taylor, Andrews, McIntosh. Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. My question would be directed at yourself, Your Worship, at the Deputy Mayor, or at Mr. Jones. I'm not certain where the best commentary is, but I did receive a document from the county today, which unfortunately I received this morning and have not had a chance to read. But I guess I'd just be curious, what is the status of the county? What is staff saying at the county? Like, what is their wishes? Because it does have to go through them and come back to us, as I understand it. We would want their recommendation and alignment to this. And what are they saying? Are we at that point yet, or do we know?
Well, Mr. Jones, you've had some conversations with the county. Do you want to comment, and then I can say something as well?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Taylor, we have had conversations with county staff, and they have received direction from County Council to work with the town of Orangeville if indeed we do end up endorsing this location for the new transit transfer point. As it is their property, they have certain concerns, and they essentially are looking to assemble a bit of a checklist to make sure that their concerns are addressed through this process, and they're willing to work with staff to ensure that those concerns are addressed.
If I may, Your Worship.
Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I guess it's just me understanding the process here, but why would we vote on this tonight then if we don't understand what their wishes are? Aren't we putting the cart before the horse? Shouldn't we have that information from the county first and then be able to move forward, you know, unfeathered and make a decision on it?
You know, both organizations have to approve it, so tonight, you know, we've already had a unanimous approval of the site at County Council. It was brought before County Council. It was unanimously approved that the county staff be able to discuss this matter with Town Council. So now it's really up to us to say that yes, this is the best spot in town to have this, and then the final legalities of this will be worked out between the Town of Orangeville and the County of Dufferin. That's my understanding. Mr. Cohen, your understanding as well?
I believe we're waiting for the engineers at the county, Mr. Burns, to give his opinion on whether or not this is, you know, the right way, as we would do with Mr. Jones, and then it would come back, would it not? Like, we're not quite settled at the county yet. I know the politicians have said go, but I don't think the engineers have said go.
Well, the engineers take your direction from the councilors at this point, and that's what we've told him. So I'm sure this will get worked out. The details have yet to be finalized, but I think if the location is approved, that those details will be worked out. Any further question, Mr. Taylor?
No, I would just go on record as saying I find that process murky. I'm not sure we're quite there yet in my mind, but that's okay.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McIntosh.
Yeah, I was going to answer Councillor Taylor's question. As you say, it has been approved by the politicians. Somebody's got to start the approval process here, and it might as well be us. So, excuse me, I think that's the way we should proceed, and I'll be voting for option 2.
Right. Okay, any further commentary here before we vote on this matter? Seeing none, all in favor? We have Andrews, Sherwood, McIntosh, and Brown in favor. Opposed? Peters, Taylor, and Post are opposed. Okay, thank you. That motion passes. Moving on to 12.4. This is planning application summary for 2020. INS 2021-009, a recommendation of report INS 2021-009. The planning application summary for 2020 be received. May I have a motion for that, please? Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Andrews. Any further comments from councillors? Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was waiting for my e-scribe to
I'm sorry.
sink in here. But
I'm running behind here. My apologies.
no, but mine wasn't working for some reason. For I don't know why. But thank you for recognizing my request to pose a question. It was more of a comment than anything else, but I do have a question also. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Ward and Mr. Jones for the report, and it does provide a lot of insight to some of the things that are happening in our community, and it is nice to see that we do have some significant investment that is on the horizon, or at least the consideration of development in our community. And the maps that you provided to the members of council, I'm hoping that other members of council found them to be helpful. I certainly did, because it gave me at least an idea of what is coming over the horizon, especially in certain parts of our community that I wasn't even aware of. And I did pose a question to Mr. Ward about one particular development on the far west end on Broadway, which I guess is a new development, if I'm not mistaken, at least a proposal. Is that correct, Mr. Ward?
That's correct. And through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Andrews, it's a land use application as well as a site development application received later last year. It's a proposal for 54 back-to-back townhouse units as well as a standalone commercial building on the property. The applications are currently under a circulation review period at this time. We are expecting to schedule a public meeting likely in March for further information about those applications.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's not surprising. The real estate market in this area is on fire right now. And it's not surprising to see that developers are wishing to move their inventory into production. And so we're seeing a lot of that activity this year. And I guess the projection looks like 2,000 units, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Ward, on the books, residential units. Is that right? That are going to apply for?
To Your Worship, that's correct. When we look at all the applications out there, in a land use approval review status, it's approximately a little over 2,000 units, sort of in the active application status.
Very good. Okay. Any further comments, councillors, on this? Councillor Sherwood, right ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, I had queued up in eScribe there, so.
So I just saw it, yeah.
It's just more of a comment, Your Worship. I want to thank staff very much for this detailed and well documented report. It really gave some good insight as to what we've got coming down in the future and all the things that are keeping our staff very busy. Again, thank you very much for this update. I was really excited to see all of this. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further commentary. Did we get a motion earlier? Okay, all in favor of receiving this report?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to 12.5, this is the Renewal Road intersection analysis. Let me just cue this one up. And this is a report INS 2021-005, Renewal Road intersection analyses that have been received, and the council directs staff to implement one of the options listed below as presented within this report and in accordance with the measures set out in the Paradigm Renewal Road Assessment of Intersections report. Option number 1, to receive the report. Option number 2, to move ahead with protected left turn signals. And option number 3, additional long-term measures. I see Mr. Andrews is in the queue. Go ahead, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know that we have had a number of residents of the community. I know that one of the members of council is a former resident of that area and has spoken eloquently about the concerns over the last 18 months or so. For myself, I feel that looking at the options does provide a lot of important detail. This report was quite extensive, and I know members of council have gone through every single page like I have. I was very surprised, but also very impressed by all the information that was there. It does give I guess a real eye-opener to some of the complexities that exist in road monitoring and also ensuring that we have a community that is safe. I will be endorsing a particular option. I'm not sure if that's something that I can end up putting forth, at least what my motion is, but this time I would put a motion regarding option number 2.
All right. Okay. Do we have a seconder for option 2? Councillor Post. Further conversation, councillors, before we vote on that? Councillor Sherwood, go ahead. And then Councillor Peters. You're muted, Councillor Sherwood. You're muted, Councillor Sherwood. Okay, there you go.
Yes, yes, sorry, Your Worship. Yes, I'm not sure if my fellow councillor got a second or not, but I too.
Councillor seconded Councillor Andrews' motion.
Okay, so I will be supporting Councillor Andrews for option 2. However, I would also like to include something further to the motion. I would like a motion to be put forward that $87,000 be included in the 2021 capital budget. And where I come up with $87,000 is if you look at table 1 on pages 5 and 6, I've added up the highest possible cost for the implementing number 2, but perhaps Mr. Jones can clarify that. But by my calculations, I think $87,000 needs to be implemented in the 2021 budget.
Mr. Jones, can you comment on that number? Does that sound accurate? Sure. I don't have it from.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I could, I'd like to defer that to Mr. Lackey, please.
Okay, Mr. Lackey, could you comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, that number is correct. When you add up the highest number, it would be 87,000.
Okay.
So if my fellow councillor would be willing to add that to the motion, it's not included in the capital budget at all.
Absolutely.
Friendly amendment. Councillors Andrew and Post are in agreement with you on that. I think we've got some other councillors wish to speak. Councillor Post, go ahead. And then Councillor Taylor.
Thank you very much. My comment was initially to support Councillor Andrews' motion, which has already been done, but I just wanted to comment a special thank you for such an extensive report. It was very eye-opening, like Councillor Andrews said, to be able to see all of the history behind that intersection. And I think that moving forward, this is going to be the best way to at least start with. I think it's going to make a big difference in that neighborhood. And I hope that the residents of the neighborhood will be happy with this as a starting point. And I hope that they'll see a difference in the way that they're able to enter and exit their neighborhood. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Post. Councillor Taylor, and then Councillor Peters, I believe, which is Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to speak to this quickly if I could too. And first of all, thank you. It sounds like Council is going to be positive in this way. And I did spend some time with Mr. Jones and Mr. Lackey today, just making sure I fully understood exactly what we were doing here. And I'm appreciative of their efforts as well. I just wanted to speak to option 3, which is the longer term vision. And I'm not in favor of us doing that. I wanted to reassure everyone as you look through what has to be done here for a longer term if we were to pursue option 3. A lot of this is going to be covered off in road need studies. I know the county is doing one coming up. So I just wanted to assure the group that, if you agree that do nothing isn't the right response, then I would also suggest that option 3 isn't something that we need to do at this time either. And option 2 is really the best path in my mind. And at some point, option 3 will probably happen, but it won't be this council that would pursue it or research it if it did actually come to fruition at some point. So again, I guess I'd like to thank the residents for advocating, and it sounds like council is going to be in favor, and I'm quite appreciative of that as well. So thank you, everyone.
Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Jones or Mr. Lackey, could you remind council what the value of the paradigm scope of work was?
Through your worship to Councillor Peters, it was approximately $30,000.
Okay, thank you for reminding us.
Thank you. Okay, well, I found it interesting that one of the long-term suggestions was roundabouts on Renewal Road, which I'm a fan of, and I've just taken the job of chair of the County Infrastructure Committee. I'm meeting with Mr. Scott Burns tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact, and it's one of the items on the agenda. So, that type of expenditure, which was $1.25 million per intersection, is not something that isn't going to be a joint effort between town and county, and perhaps infrastructure money from the higher levels of government, if and when it does happen. But I'd like to put it out there and make sure that town council staff and county council and staff have it on the horizon, and that perhaps over the next few years we could put a plan together to make Renewal the bypass that it was supposed to be, instead of a stop and start and a more dangerous road today than it could be improvement in the future. So anyway, we'll keep working on that one. I think this council's aligned on safety matters, and we're looking forward to an even bigger picture look at town road safety coming up, and that we want to have traffic calming issues looked at to help improve safety in our town. So, any further comments before we vote on this? I think we're all aligned on option 2, and we have the motion on the floor from Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Post, with the amendment from Councillor Sherwood on setting the amount of $87,000 out of capital in the 2021 budget. All in favor?
Yes.
That is passed unanimously. Let's move on to 12.6. This is Sustainable Orangeville's annual report, annual update, and that report CPS 2021-003 titled Sustainable Orangeville 2020 Annual Update we received, and the council approved the carryover of $12,500 from the 2020 committee budget funds for projects that were started and are scheduled for completion in 2021. And that the balance of the 2020 committee budget funds be transferred into the Environmental Reserve Fund for future sustainability projects. Here, can I have a motion to receive this and approve this? Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Post. Any comments from councillors on this matter? Councillor Sherwood. You're muted, Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Peters. Can you tell me, do you know off the top of your head how many people are on the wait list for the community garden for apply? It mentions that there's a wait list.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know, I have that number offhand, but of the 20 to 24 plots, I believe the wait list will be 10 or so. Maybe Mr. Osmond has a more up-to-date figure than that, but it hasn't been so much to justify another full garden of that size, but we also have the gardens being filled on the school sites as well.
Oh, there's like little community gardens at different schools?
Yeah, there's 3 other community gardens on school properties.
Oh, very good.
Mr. Osmond, do you have an idea of the wait list on community garden plots?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Sherwood, the number is actually quite low. It's less than 5. It fluctuates from year to year. This year we're less than 5, and as Councillor Peters alluded to, it does go up from time to time. But again, they do use other locations, and right now the main community garden is used capacity, and because the food bank, of course, uses gardens as well. They take up space, and we do fluctuate from year to year, but we're less than 5 at this point.
Very good. Thank you. Any further comments from councillors before we vote on this? Okay. We do have a motion to approve this. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to traffic bylaw amendment 12. This is 12.7, a townwide speed limit reduction. This is INS 2021-006, and it's a recommendation that report INS 2021-006 traffic bylaw amendment townwide speed limit reduction be received, and that council pass a bylaw to amend the traffic bylaw 78-205 to reduce the speed limit on most town roads from 50 kilometers to 40 kilometers, and to add Rolling Hills Drive, McCannell Avenue, and Blind Line to the list of community safety zones. May we have a motion for this item? Councillor Post, seconded by Councillor Andrews. Any comments? Councillor Andrews, I see you are in the queue here. Right.
Yeah, thank you again, Your Worship, and again, thank you to the staff for this report. It's provided much needed detail. I didn't realize the number of signs that we were talking about that have to be changed, and I understand that this is again a cost that's going to have to be looked at and included in the 2021 budget. But at the same time, 186 signs across the community that are going to have to be changed, but it's also, I think, for the better. Part of this will be, no doubt, the education that's going to be required. And I know that Inspector Ward had indicated, hopefully with the support of other officers, we take a look at a form of education in our community, but also the important enforcement that will be necessary at some point through the hopeful implementation of this particular matter. Thank you.
All right, we've got Councillor Peters and then Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Peters, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief point on the community safety zones. We had originally included McCannell as part of that whole discussion. I guess technically speaking, there's very little activity on that road in terms of houses or schools or the hospital. I don't know if someone on staff is equipped to answer this question, but I wonder, now that we've gone ahead with the guardrail solution, if removing McCannell from that list makes sense. Obviously Rolling Hills would stay, but I'm not sure if that element, if we feel we've addressed that elsewhere, in the interest of keeping the community safety zones to truly those areas that would need extra enforcement and penalty.
Through your worship to Councillor Peters, really it is a decision of council to make. While there is some general guidance with respect to the areas within a municipality that can be considered for community safety zones, there really are no hard and fast rules. So it really is up to council whether you want it to be included or not.
Mr. Jones, I'm wondering if you could tell us, automatic speed enforcement is coming. I believe I've read that community safety zones are areas where automatic speed enforcement can be implemented. Is that correct?
Your worship, I'm afraid I'm not familiar with automatic speed enforcement to that extent. Well,
I don't have it in front of me, but I thought that was the intention of the community safety zones, was that there could be some automatic speed enforcement put in place. And I know in Calvin Village, for instance, they made that area of 50-kilometer roadway in Calvin Village community safety zone for just that reason. They could implement automatic speed enforcement. That being the case, the run up the hill there on McCannell might be a good spot to drop an automatic speed enforcement camera if and when they are available to us. So as a rebuttal to Councillor Peters, the speed up McCannell was the reason for this guide rail issue. So I don't know whether it makes sense to remove it or leave it at this point, but I guess we'll continue to talk about it. Sorry.
Just the last points that I was one of the ones that brought up that area as part of the whole, trying to find the less invasive solutions. But I also remember from some of the the ride-alongs that I did during the policing decision days, and there was a caution that as you increase the number of community safety zones, they become less effective because it becomes normalized. So I'm not advocating strongly. I wonder if we want to be a little more selective.
Right, I understand. Okay, Councillor Post, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I do. I wanted to reach out to Councillor Peters about that point. Through this whole process, I've been in contact with MPP Sylvia Jones's office regarding that area, and especially with people coming off the bypass. We were talking at one point about perhaps adding an advanced green. And in speaking with Ms. Jones's office, one of the first things that was suggested to us was to, in fact, make McCannell a community safety zone from her office. So that was one of the things that I had let her know at the end of our last vote about this, that we had gone ahead and that council had endorsed that solution. So from my perspective, I'd like to leave it in there as being a community safety zone, and if we need to reevaluate that at a later date, perhaps we could. And my second comment would be through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Jones, which is, once this traffic bylaw is passed by council tonight, hopefully, how long will it be before that will before the new speed limit will take effect, and how long will it take to get all the signs erected?
Mr. Jones.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Post. Once the approval is gained this evening, we will be moving forward with ordering all of the signs, and staff will be putting them up as time permits. It's the same staff who do the winter control, and if winter continues to be gentle, they'll get up more quickly than not. The bylaw, you may notice, isn't actually included in tonight's agenda. We are finalizing that now, and that will come back on February the 8th. And I believe our intent is to make the effective date of that bylaw March 1st to give us time to get the signs up, because the way it's written in the Highway Traffic Act is that you need the measures in the bylaw, and then you need to have the signs up. Both things need to be in place before it's effective. And that'll also give us some lead time to get out there with our community outreach to educate the public about what's coming, so as that we can ensure that people are aware of it. The intent isn't so much to find people, it's to get them to slow down.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. I was hoping that March 1st was going to be the answer, so thank you.
Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship, I was hoping that the mover, Councillor Post and Councillor Andrews, would be willing to add to the motion that the cost of the $25,000 be included in the 2021 budget.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. One question before we vote. I wanted to ask Mr. Jones. Back earlier in 2020, we passed a motion for a wider traffic safety study to include traffic calming measures. Where are we with that particular consultation, Mr. Jones?
Your Worship, that is something that is still pending, and I really don't have an update for you this evening on that.
Okay. But is it something that will take place in 2021?
Yes, Your Worship, it is something that we're working on and should take place in 2021.
Right. So, Council, just to reiterate my position from last time when this was put in front of us, I voted no, but the reason that I voted no was because I felt it was premature, and that the traffic study just spoken to with Mr. Jones should have been in front of us, so that we had an entire global look at all of the issues before selecting certain areas of town for speed reduction. So I still feel that way. I'll be voting in opposition tonight, but it sounds like there's enough support to have this go through, and happy to ask for the vote now. Unless there's any further commentary here? None? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? I'm in opposition. Thank you. Okay, councillors, moving on to correspondence 13.1, 13.2. This is correspondence from the Township of East Carripraxia and also from Dufferin County. May I have a motion to receive this correspondence? Deputy Mayor McIntosh, Councillor Taylor, any comments on this correspondence? All in favor of receiving it?
Yes.
On item 14 is committee and board minutes to be received by council, 14.1 through 14.4. May I have a motion to receive these minutes? Councillor Post, second by Councillor Sherwood. Any comments on these minutes? All in favor of receiving them?
Yes.
Very good. I see no motions prior to meeting. No notices of motion at meeting. Oh, Councillor Peters, I'm sorry, your hand's up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be looking at a notice of motion for next meeting. There's been a rising trend in municipalities in discussions of our power systems and greenhouse gas emissions, specifically as they relate to the gas-fired power plants in peak conditions. So having a bit of that background, I'm trying to put a little more context in it so that we can have a better discussion of it. Some of the municipal motions have been fairly high level at this point, but anyway, I won't ruin it. I'm hoping to bring that to a future council meeting.
Very good, thank you. Councillors, any new business that anybody would like to bring up at this moment? Now we're on to question period. Madam Clerk, do we have any questions on the line?
I'm not aware of any. Perhaps Mr. Bernardo can just confirm.
Mr. Bernardo, anybody on the line for questions?
Through your worship, there's currently nobody on the line.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to item 19. This is bylaws. A recommendation that bylaws listed below be read 3 times and finally passed. That's the bylaw to assume roads, works, and services in the Cache Development Subdivision, and the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Corporation of the Town of Orangeville at its regular council meeting held on January 25th, 2021. We have a motion to pass these bylaws. Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Peters. Any comments? No. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. And may I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Deputy Mayor McIntosh, Councillor Post, all in favor? Thank you, folks. Have a good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Take care.
Evening.